If I do the go live button now, I can never remember this. I get another option, don't I, if I want to add a title or go live anyway. And it's when I hit go live anyway, it's live, even though I don't think it is. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
As soon as you see it in the corner saying live on Facebook, we are live on Facebook.
Okay. So we're 17:30. So I will go 3, 2, 1.
Lift off.
Lift off. Action. Our meeting is now streaming live on Facebook. That's how I know, isn't it?
How you know? It's only taken you 4 days.
I'm a slow learner. Good afternoon, everybody, or even good evening, because I still haven't worked that one out either. Welcome to day 4 of the SOAR Day Challenge. And for the more astute of you, you might have worked out that today's letter will be R. And we shall be coming to that shortly. A quick hello. My name's Dave Holloway. I think I've already said 3 times now. I've been working with Sanjay for nearly very close to 4 years. A coach, trainer. Thoroughly enjoying this. This is lovely, and everything that I do with Sanjay, everything that Sanjay does. It's just an absolute joy and a pleasure to be here. I do some other things as well, but that's not really too relevant at the moment. So that's me. And please, Diane, John, Jenny, introduce yourselves as well.
Hi, I'm Di Pugh, for those who I haven't already said hello to. I was introduced to Sanjay's work just over 8 years ago, where I found it was absolutely life-changing for me, both within my personal life but in my work life too, in the teaching of a whole number of tools that started way back then but have just grown and grown as we've gone along with the use of them, and finding all different ways to enhance and really work them into both my business life and on a personal level. So this is one of many techniques that we've learned along the way, so it's good to be able to share that with you as a small taster of Sanjay's work and the rest of what he does.
Hi, Jan.
That it?
You're supposed to introduce yourself, I think. I was trying to be polite and allow the ladies to go through.
Oh, sorry. I thought you just said I'm. I thought you said I'm John. I thought you didn't realise you'd said Jen. Sorry. Apologies, everybody. Good evening. I am Jenny Henderson. I have been working with Sanjay for approximately 8 years, working with him in his business as well as being a client of his business. So using these techniques to help me to develop through my 3 goals of health, wealth and relationship, and using the techniques that I have learned over the course of those 8 years in emotional intelligence to help me transform and grow my business and myself through my own personal development in ways that I couldn't have expected to.
Thank you, Jenny. John.
Thank you, David. Hi, my name is John Grant. I've been working with Sanjay for 6.5 years. For reasons which I cannot begin to understand. A few years ago he asked me to become part of his crew, and I now am a coach and co-trainer, and life just keeps getting better and better the more that we do, and it's just a fabulous trip. And there's too much suffering in the world, and to me this is the only, or one of the ways in which we can address that, and begin to appreciate the fabulous things that life actually has to offer when we can just get our heads a bit out of the way. So there we go.
Awesome.
To you, David.
John, Jenny and Di. And again, anyone, if you're watching it live, please do drop us a comment. Jen's watching the Facebook feed. Do say hello. And if there's any questions or anything that you want to know a little bit more about, please do ask the questions. I don't know if this is a spoiler alert that Sanjay will be with us tomorrow. And as I think I've already said, Sanjay has been working in emotional intelligence, the field of emotional intelligence, for over 20 years. He's developed the SOAR method that we've been exploring this week, as well as other things. I think for me, the wonderful thing about what he's done is been able to take parts of things or realize the links between things that he's learned and he's been taught, and he's put them together in a really wonderful way that just takes you through I don't want to be cliched and say a journey, but it is a process that you can go through, and you, just as John sort of alluded to, the more you do, the sort of the better it gets, and that's possibly why the four of us are here as we are now, because of it. So I, for one, would say, yeah, I've got a lot to thank Sanjay for in that respect. So yeah, please in the comments let us know. And I know some of you will be new to what we do and who we are. Some of you would have worked with us, been on some of our online events or our live events. So yeah, do say hello.
Please.
Maybe a quick. Sorry.
Please say hello.
Yeah, please say hello.
So this is not just the four of
us. Yeah, so maybe a quick recap from yesterday where we were exploring the A of accept and acceptance, and just made the point that if you're not accepting something, then you're resisting it. And I did suggest maybe just try pushing against the wall and see how you get on and what you get for the expenditure of energy. And again, this is the steps of SOAR. And I'll share this now. We started Monday with the stop. We looked into observe and just noticing the feelings, seeing what comes up. You then move into the acceptance, which is a higher level emotion. It's a higher energy. It's a calmer place to be. It's the place where you start to get clarity by accepting. You're not resisting, because as the Borg said, resistance is futile. Pushing against a wall and expecting the wall to move, there's a futile thing to be doing. Final step, release. You've stopped, you've taken the attention out of the head, moved it into the body. You're observing how you feel, what's going on. You're accepting either the feeling or the situation. You're not resisting it. The thing to do then is release. It's the final step, and that's what we'll be talking about for this session and sharing today. Two things that you can do with an emotion. You can resist the emotion, which we were sort of covered a bit yesterday, and the opposite of accepting it, you can resist it. Or in accepting it, you can let it go. That's the next step. You accept it, you then let it go. You're allowing the energy to flow. When you resist, you lose energy. When you're pushing against the wall, you're expending the energy. The wall's just stood there, and you're the one expending the energy, and you're not really getting anything in return for it. And we resist feelings. Again, with the observe on Tuesday night, it's just notice those times when you feel that you noticing the emotion, and then yesterday it was about noticing when you're saying to yourself, I shouldn't be doing this, or this shouldn't be happening, or I shouldn't feel this way, or I don't want to feel this way. That's resistance. And we can resist the emotions there are four things that you can do with an emotion, and with the resistance is you can suppress the emotion, you can deny it exists, you can express the emotion, which is generally a more of an uncontrolled expression of the emotion. You can escape the emotion. Fourth thing you can do, you can let it go, you can release it, you can allow that energy to flow. And I think for a lot of people, it's being caught up in either that suppression, that denying that it's even there. I don't get angry. I don't feel emotion, is something that some people will say. There's the expression of the emotion, where people are quick to react. And I think, John, you mentioned earlier in the week, is that either that, do you react? Are you always reacting, as opposed to being whatever the other word was that I still can't remember? Respond. I knew it was an R word. Are you responding or reacting? For some people, it's without even the hesitation. They just react, and that can be just an expression of whatever it is that they're feeling. Or you escape the emotion. And there are loads of distractions out there, and there are some obvious ones. Lots of drink, drugs that are maybe got more of a negative connotation. But even some of the more positive things, health-wise, people that exercise frequently, is that can easily become an escape, and that you're in the gym working out to avoid maybe confronting things, or maybe avoid some of the feelings that you've got. And you're using the gym, and you'll say, oh, but I'm very healthy, I always exercise. But actually, you're using it as a way of escaping from feeling. And I think, to me, beneath all of this is really an invitation to say to people, feel, experience the feeling. This is guiding you towards, by stopping and taking the attention from the head into the body, you start to feel. By observing what's going on and maybe giving it a name, which you may not have done or even thought to do, but you're more in touch with it, it's closer. Deciding to accept what's going on is a step, is a decision. And then if you can release, let go, that energy flows. That's when you get to the calmer place. That's when things start falling into place. That's when the goals start to get easier, because the decisions to get to the goals are easier. Back to the thoughts and the emotions, by getting that emotional state into that higher level, that above the line place, the actions from that place become either less of an effort or just clearer, easier. The results follow. That's my, I suppose, a summation of SOAR. And really the final step is that release. It's not escaping, it's not suppressing, and it's not expressing, it's controlling it and releasing it, allowing it to go, allowing it to flow. And that's where you're in a higher energy state, probably for, let's say, more often or for longer periods. I'd be interested to Diane, John, Jen, if there's anything you can add to that, or how you feel about it.
Sure. I think for me, it's really, when you talk quite a lot there, Dave, about the different energies we find ourselves in, and where we block our own energy, and like many people, juggling so many things within life, whether that's being a mum, whether that's work, whether that's a whole mixture of other things that we're all spending our time on throughout the week. To be in a higher energy and to experience life from that place is so much better. And when I started to learn some of these techniques, and SOAR being one of them, that's the power of it, is really noticing what's going on and releasing that energy and allowing that energy to flow makes for a much better week. And by the end of the week, you're not quite as flat out as I'm not quite as flat out as I used to be, and get to enjoy my weekends from a different place. So I think for me, it's like sort of the biggest thing is really noticing when I don't stuff the emotions down, or I don't ignore or escape the emotions, and just stop long enough to really connect with what's going on for me, and lifting myself into that higher energy. When we talked about those earlier on in the week, it's really experiencing things from a completely different place. It's a fantastic practice to introduce into our everyday life.
Yeah, I think the thing that happens, or seems to happen as you do this, is maybe at the beginning it can, and the way that we presented it is almost like a four-stage process. So you stop, and then you observe, and then you accept, and then you release. Actually, what happens pretty quickly is, as soon as you've stopped, you're into the observing. As soon as you're into the observing, because you come out of your mind and into your body and you're just looking at the emotion, you are moving into acceptance, and the act of accepting is the release. So although it's presented as a 4-stage process, actually when you get into it, it becomes one seamless, very easy, very quick way of getting yourself from a poor emotional state to a much better emotional state. And as Dave and Diana said, taking actions from that place is so much more powerful, so much more positive, so much more likely to bring about the result without the effort. And it works. It's so simple and so powerful. So.
Yeah, it's not half an hour a day, 4 days a week to get to the end.
Creating these habits into your everyday life, isn't it? As I think I've said a couple of times during the week, you know, I use this all the time, and actually no one needs to know on the outside what's happening internally. And it is so seamless, and it becomes part of a normal daily routine. Actually, when you notice yourself getting caught up, it's just such an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody at work need know that you are soaring. Although they may notice a change in your demeanour.
Well, yeah, that's a really good point. And when you think of all the hundreds, probably thousands of people that Sanjay's worked with over the years, that seems to me, from those, from my experience, is the most common thing that people report back is that other people notice the difference in them and wonder why they look either just happier or lighter, or there's just something about why they look different. That's the strange one. Someone will say that they've been told they look different, so they physically look different, and really what they've been doing is soaring. They've been working on their inner emotional state and their inner calm and their inner being, taking themselves out of the storm and moving themselves into the eye of the storm. So, Jen, sorry, did you have anything?
I was going to just say exactly that. It's about when you feel lighter, when, you know, that moment of release is when you start to feel lighter, and you know, when you truly release. And again, you know, some of the things that I've done, how I've suppressed and not released, I rely on my humor. So I'll rely on my, you know, I'll make jokes and try and resist dealing with the emotions by, you know, either pretending that I'm all right with a big smile on my face and everything's okay, and use my humor to deflect and suppress some of those emotions. And, you know, one of the other key things that I do is if I'm not willing to face it, I will hide away, and, you know, I won't answer calls, and I'll just, you know, I'll shelter myself away. And you know, I used to do that before, and then it would get too much before I realized that I had to do something about it, because it wasn't serving me. You know, not dealing with it was not serving me, and therefore I was not therefore able to help somebody else. In fact, I had a conversation with someone on Tuesday morning, when they were talking about one of their, they couldn't find a strength. They couldn't find a strength of something we were working on, and she suddenly realized that actually what her strength was she wanted to help others. She didn't want to do the exercise because she wanted to be supporting everybody else, and she wanted to be there. And at the end of the conversation, the realization came that actually she did that as a suppressant because she would have to deal with things herself if she wasn't there to help others. If she had to look internally, she had to turn the mirror on herself, then she might have to face some of her own emotions and some of her own untruths, as opposed to, but I'm here to help you. Let me help you. And other people will do that. They'll just want to help others without dealing with things that are going on themselves. So yeah, so there's loads of different ways that we use to suppress our emotions, or a lot of people used to say, you know, I used to describe myself as a pressure cooker. you know, and it used to be I'd keep the lid on, I'd deal with everything, and then there would be this massive explosion, and then I'd feel great. But everybody in my team would be kind of going, what the hell just happened there? What on else? And I wouldn't realize that they would all be dealing with this out, you know, this like, I let everything go to the point where I exploded. Now I'm so much better. Yes, I know you guys laugh because on our Monday morning meetings you see signs of my little explosions coming out, but they are not as big as they used to be because we are practicing and we are using these techniques all the time.
Yeah, and again, I'd certainly mentioned to me the simplicity, the elegance of SOAR, and that simplicity can sort of belie the strength, the power of it, because you look for it to be difficult or complex. Having said that, it's quite easy to say, okay, so you go through the steps, you stop, you observe, you accept, release. What does that mean? It means let it go. That can be challenging. And that maybe is slightly easier said than done in some cases. Or, as John, as you said, the more you practice it, the more it becomes almost like dominoes falling. And as you stop, you begin to observe. And as you do one, the next one follows. But certainly early on, saying to someone, let go of the emotion, let go of the way you're feeling. There are ways of doing that. There are steps. We haven't got anywhere near enough time in a half-hour Facebook Live to go into sort of all the detail and all the ways in which that can work. But it does work. It not only can it work, it does work. And again, I think, you know, the four of us are a testament to that from the way we've engaged in it and the way that we've worked with Sanjay. And I think on that note, actually, Jen, I will mention now that we've got a link. We've been saying all week, you know, there are people on the Facebook Lives that are new, found us for the first time, are hearing this for the first time. Also, there are people that have worked with us on online events and sort of real world events. We have got an online event coming up on the 3rd and 4th of, and I nearly said September. That would have been wrong. October. 3rd and 4th of October. So we are going to post a link on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
We are going to post a link. We have got an event coming up. It's an opportunity to come and work with us for 2 days. It does also include an online video series of Sanjay working with people on a 1-day course that he previously filmed. And we are, as a special thank you to those of you that have been with us over the 4-day challenge, and for tomorrow for the final session, for the wrap-up session, there is an opportunity to, if you purchase the online event, you get the power videos, but you also get an up to 45-minute coaching session with one of the team after the event if you attend, and that's our thank you really to you for your time and attention over these sessions, which haven't ended yet. So that's not a wrap up, but I just thought I'd mention it now because it came to mind. So Jen, if you could post that on the Facebook page, that would be wonderful.
Couple of comments, guys. Just some people have been commenting as we've been going through. So I asked them to share what they've taken away from these past 4 days, and one of our new people who's joined us, Isthar, she has said that what she has taken away, what she has realised, is how unconnected she can be between what's going on in my head and what is going on in my body.
Fantastic.
Brilliant.
That in itself is, you know, realization to that is a step. It's an acknowledgement, and then you've got the opportunity to, you know, to work from there. Brilliant. Yeah.
John, Diane, do you want to share any specific gains that you've noticed from using the SOAR technique? Is there anything specific that you've noticed?
Not something I noticed, but coincidentally, I was speaking to somebody this morning who wasn't familiar with the SOAR technique, and she told me that she hadn't been in a great place for a few days because she was feeling stuck, and one of the problems in that, when you're in that situation, and maybe what was covered yesterday, was she came, I don't want to feel stuck. I don't want to feel stuck. And of course, by resisting, all she was doing was prolonging the agony, so to speak. And in certainly less than 5 minutes, and okay, stop, out of your head, into your body, just observe that stuckness. How does it feel? How is it for you? Can you accept that that's where you are now? And having gone through that, could you let it go? And so something that had been bothering her for the best part of a week, and she'd not been in a really good place, within 5 minutes using Sanjay's technique, the cloud had lifted. You know, so it's we can't emphasize enough that, you know, how powerful this is and how simple it is, and the fact it absolutely bloody works. From
how long had she been stuck?
About a week.
Yeah. And 5 minutes to
5 minutes, sorted. So, you know, that's what it can do.
Sure. Numerous examples of a similar nature where I've been working with other people, and actually it's one of those where if someone is in that moment and just say, like, sort of doesn't know where to go with where they're at, or don't necessarily know exactly how they're feeling, to use this technique in that moment is just so easy and quick for them to do. But one of the biggest things I noticed within myself, very often people would say to me on the outside, you know, sort of, oh, you're always this really calm person, you always look like you're so together, you're, you know, so professional, so da-da-da-da. And I used to think, yeah, if only you knew what was going on in the inside, what was really happening in here. So sort of, yes, on the outside, I could convey the image that I needed to within, or I thought I needed to within the workplace. But the cost of that was this inner turmoil. And actually, when you learn techniques like this, it's just so straightforward and very simply change that around enormously. I think I mentioned earlier on in the week, for me, it shows itself in anxiety. So I get these sort of anxious feelings coming up, and it's something that I can use very quickly to allow that to dissipate and face what I need to face in any one moment. So there's been so many different, like, sort of benefits that I've gained personally, but to be able to use these simple techniques with other people is just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and I think you've both used the word simple. John, you used also the power of it, and again, it is the power is in the simplicity, because it is so simple, not necessarily easy at all times and at all steps necessarily. Helps when you're being guided by someone who's more experienced, certainly. But yeah, it is absolutely the case that don't look for complexity and don't look for it to be difficult. Allow it to be easy. I just thinking as you were talking, I'll share the screen. This slide. It's. I suppose my question would be, what gear are you driving around in? Where are you spending most of your time? And again, when you go through the SOAR and you get to the acceptance, as you can see from the slide, it's a high level energy. It's a high emotion. It's above the line, well above the line, and so. That's a great analogy for me is where are you driving, what gear are you in? Are you spending all your life in first and second gear, high revs, high fuel consumption, straining the engine and rushing around expending energy, or are you cruising? And the higher the gear you're in, the easier it gets, the more efficient the journey, the less wear and tear on the engine, the less wear and tear on you and those around you, because it's not something that we've really mentioned, I don't think, at all, because we've been concentrating on the technique. But actually, I've certainly found that the more of this that I've done and worked for myself, the ripple effect actually is on those around me. Mm-hmm. And that's something that you can't sort of legislate for or know how that's going to work, but it certainly does.
Yeah, certainly the people that I worked with years ago, before I started working with Sanjay, I am someone who expresses my emotions and in particular used to express my anger, and without realizing, looking back in retrospect, perhaps foolishly, but looking back without realizing the damaging effect that that had on other people. So certainly from their point of view, the fact that that doesn't happen anymore, and that I'm able to respond, and I'm able to respond without pushing the emotion down, but by going through this in a few seconds and letting it go, okay. So I would like to think that pretty much everyone I work with has certainly benefited from this as well, as well as my own blood pressure.
Again, you're then in the eye of the storm rather than possibly creating the storm.
Yeah. I'm pretty good at that.
I think we underestimate how much we are giving off without us realizing it. You know, we think we're doing a really good job of hiding some of these emotions, but we talked about, you know, energy and the fact that, you know, we can, when you're vibrating and you stand, you know, next to people, they can actually feel it. And no matter how much you think that you're not showing anything on the outside, some people will recognize it and know it's wrong. You know, I talked earlier about how sometimes I you know, deflect and use different ways to suppress my emotions. You know I can't get away with any of you guys on that. I know that, you know, there's you know, and I know it from the conversations I've had with Sanjay. If I turn up or we have a conversation, any one of us, and you know, the question gets asked, you know, how you doing? And it's like, yeah, no, I'm fine, it's great, yeah, no, everything's all right. And the question comes back with, you know, are you sure? Are you really sure? You know, and it used to make me chuckle. You know, I used to have conversations with Sanjay. We'd ring up and he'd be like, okay, you know, do you want to sit with that then? Do you just want to deal with it now and let's just move on? Or do you just want to sit in agony for the next half an hour? And it would be like, okay, let's deal with it now then. Okay, fine. You know, and like you, John, within that 5 minutes, it was done and dusted. But, you know, I would not be able to pull the wool over any of your eyes now without you knowing that something was wrong with me and we could deal with it like that. And there's no need for me to be in that situation. And I think, you know, people have to recognize that what they are giving out externally, sometimes people are recognizing, and by dealing with it and doing it yourself and internally, then, you know, you're helping each other as well. You're serving those around you as much as you're serving yourself.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thanks, Jen. That sort of pretty much brings us to time again. The end of the 4th day of the SOAR challenge. As we said, we have got a bonus day tomorrow. Sanjay will be with us. He did ask me to say, if anyone's got any questions, if anything in particular you'd like to know from him, you know, by all means, put them in the on the page, post the comments, post the question. He'll do his best to answer. I'm sure he'll manage that. Some homework for tonight. Here's something to try. Get a pen or a pencil or anything stick-like and hold it in your fist. Hold it in your hand and squeeze it. And then squeeze it a bit harder. And then squeeze it a little bit harder. And then when you're squeezing it as hard as you possibly can, you squeeze it just a little bit more, and then you hold it. And then you get to a point where you notice you can't tell the difference between the feeling in your fingers or your fist, the feeling of the thing that you're holding, and the bottom bit of your arm. And then you squeeze just a little bit more. And when you've done that, you release and you let go. And just notice how that feels as you let go. And that's an indication of what's happening internally with the emotions, especially when you're denying them or resisting them and just hoping they'll go away. So something to try.
Thank you, Dave.
And on that note, unless any of you have got anything else to say, bearing in mind it's now 3 minutes past 6, I would just thank everyone for their time, their attention, their participation, and thank Jenny and John and Diane. And a thanks from me to everyone that's been with us on the Facebook Live for the last 4 days. Looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow. I say we've got Sanjay with us, and we'll recap on SOAR and go through anything else that comes up. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Don't stop soaring.